Well, I think our overall expectations have been upbeat for equities and cautious for bonds. And the election results don't really change that. I'll admit it was a surprise for most of us on our team, the particular outcome of the election and just how close it was. But we were not really surprised by the market reaction. We anticipated that the combination of a passing of election uncertainty, the election day itself went off quite smoothly. Some of the worst fears around civic unrest certainly did not develop, as well as continued positive economic news. We saw the latest ISM manufacturing index come out, as well as a continued gentle, steady improvement in employment. All of this kind of speaks really, really well for equities. But the daily figures around the pandemic continue to worsen practically everywhere. Although what we see coming out of the election is, maybe even in the US more than elsewhere, a new resolve to just figure out how to deal with the public health issue and also address economic activity and allow it to stabilize and return. As we were just discussing, the Biden administration is likely to lower political uncertainty, not only in the domestic policy space, but also in trade policy and foreign policy. This is definitely equity positive. I think Twitter might be losing one of its most famous users, but we'll all get over that. With the likely configuration of the White House and Congress, definitely our expectations around stimulus have been moderated. They've been tempered. We think we'll see something more, but probably not until the new year. So the fiscal response that markets have been so fixated on is going to start to shift a little more back toward the Fed, and the Fed response once again being quite important, but also the view around progress towards a vaccine. Market attention is definitely starting to turn in the last few weeks very much towards that. We saw some really significant news this morning around kind of the development of trials around the vaccine. I think there were a couple of interesting things. We've been discussing it heavily already in the morning today. Particularly noteworthy is that this trial that's just come out, in this case from Pfizer, but we don't think it will be the last one by any means, they observed a really high efficacy rate. Something that I think was a lot better than what many market watchers in the healthcare field were fearing. And with a really high rate, you can get sufficient immunity into the population, and at the margin, probably increase vaccine uptake among some of the more skeptical populations that were unsure whether they would take it. Now, there are a lot of unanswered questions. How long does protection last? How often does the vaccine need to be taken? How effective is it in subgroups like children where it hasn't even been tested? And frankly, we shift the conversation more towards something government should be really good at, which is just how to distribute a vaccine. This particular one needs to be stored at a very, very cold temperature. It's relatively expensive compared to many others. So it's first really positive news on the direction of travel, but not the last story we expect to see on the vaccine side. It has a lot of portfolio implications for sure.